Welcome to Kiffin's Keep, an intellectual resource for the pillar and buttress of the truth, which is the church. This is a project of the London Lyceum, which is all about serious thinking for a serious church. I am Jordan Stefaniak, host of Kiffin's Keep and president of the London Lyceum. And as always, I'm excited to be here with you all today. Today's episode, I'm going to be covering the topic of anonymous accounts, especially on social media, and whether they are virtuous or they are vicious or there's something in between and mixed. Before we jump into the episode, though, do remember to like the episode if you enjoy it. Hit the like button on the video. If you're watching it on your phone, you can hit pause, hit like, do whatever you need to do. And then make sure to comment if you agree, disagree, or have additional thoughts on the material. I imagine you guys will have some comments on this one, so fire away. That'll be fun. And then do remember to hit the little bell so you can subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the great content that we've got here producing. So let's go ahead and get started. Anonymous accounts. I think this is an interesting topic. It's a relevant one. And it's one that I'd have thought, hey, I'm going to talk about this because I tweeted something out in relation to a little over a month ago. G3 put out a statement on Josh Bruce, how they were removing him from his role with G3 because he had several anonymous accounts and he was posting apparently slanderous material. So kudos to them for at least having a somewhat transparent little explanation for why he's been removed, and taking those things seriously. I wish we could see what those anonymous accounts were and what he was actually saying to be able to verify if it was indeed vicious or not. But that doesn't matter. I think it's a relevant topic. So I tweeted something. I'll share my screen because I think this is relevant. So naturally, when you talk about anonymous accounts, all the anonymous accounts are going to reply to you. That's just kind of how it works. And I'll just kind of like work through some of their objections to what I said here, because I think what I said is fair still. So let's find it. Boom, right here. Okay. So if you look here, I said, reminder, if you have alternate Anon accounts on social media, you should delete them. It's weird, warps your mind, evades accountability, and is almost always cowardly. Stand by that. I think that's still accurate and true. It's weird because why can't you show your face? It warps your mind because what it does is it allows you to evade accountability because no one knows who you are. And even if they do know who you are, there's a level of just you're able to hide in a particular degree. Even if they know who you are, you're still hiding from a number of people who don't know who you are. And then it allows your mind to be warped because it creates this insulated effect where you feel like you can say things more provocatively, more clearly, more directly than you actually would in real life or in person. So this is a problem that comes up just with the internet period, where you get keyboard warriors who are very strong and can beat their chests on the internet, but if you met them in person, they'd have a limp-wristed handshake. And so it's difficult to take that person seriously. And the internet, especially anonymous accounts, proliferates this sort of characteristic and this disposition to be very strong in low risk scenarios and situations. But when it comes to actually having to put skin in the game, they don't have the ability to do it. So I think it warps you in that way because it makes you actually more cowardly than it does make you courageous in a lot of ways. And then also it just the ability to hide anything where you're able to hide, to be in the darkness, is ultimately not a good place to be. So I think of anonymous accounts primarily as living in the dark rather than living in the light. That's not always the case. Obviously, there are anonymous accounts that are fine, anonymous accounts that are just sharing quotes or whatever else. I'm not trying to talk about all anonymous accounts. There's always an exception for every rule. Obviously, in order to generate a discussion, you have to make clear blanket statements, and that's what I tried to do here. But that's sort of my point here. And then I got plenty of responses. Some of these, like this Baptist Bavink guy, I don't know who it is, but I like him. He seems to post reasonable and uplifting sort of content. Just conduct yourself with godliness in all settings at times. Yeah, I totally agree. That sounds great. You know, another anonymous account Advantes, from all I've seen from this guy, he seems a reasonable fellow. Here we go. Do you think Josh's mind was warped before he set up his Anon accounts, or do you think the Anon accounts are what warped his mind? So I think it's not an either or, it's a both and. So the anonymity, if I can say the word correctly, it allows you, it removes certain traditional guardrails that help you on the path to character formation and virtue formation, and it sort of leads you into the opportunity to fall into vice. And so When you remove these guardrails, these traditional, you have to do things in person, or you have to like actually see the person's face or know who it is, it allows you to say things that you wouldn't say otherwise. And then that can lead you down to continuing to do the same thing over and over and over again. And so the problem here is not that, I mean, the problem here is both and. Maybe he was warped a little bit to even do it to begin with, but then that allows him to keep going down this pathway and to do these things in the future and to do more and more and more and more of them. I mean, I think that's just pretty standardized understanding of how just sin works and how the mind works and how people work in general. And that shouldn't be controversial to say that. Mixed feelings on this. Should Samuel Adams not have used pen names to publish socially and politically risky ideas during the American Revolution? One of the points of Anon accounts is to speak plainly and freely without possibly being doxxed and destroyed. Yeah, point taken. I get it. And there's other people who have said, well, the author of Hebrews also anonymous. What are you going to do there? They're pretty hard hit on this. And the key here is to realize that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. You have to make some simple distinctions on this. An anonymous Twitter account is not the same thing as penning anonymous letters for a political sort of choice, or for writing the letter of Hebrews. Okay. Writing the Federalist Papers, those who all James Madison, whoever else wrote on the Federalist Papers, I don't remember. They're writing under pen names. I get it, under pseudonyms, in order to prove a point and to try to convince people. They're making constructive, legitimate arguments in sustained fashion over a period of time, and they're not always staying behind this pen name for these sort of things. That is significantly different than what I'm talking about here with anonymous accounts on social media, who are making 160 character word posts and primarily living in a negative fashion, critical fashion of just simply leeching on other people and critiquing them. Those sorts of anonymous accounts are cowardly and should be destroyed, and they should be eliminated. You should delete it. It's bad for your soul. Sustained negativity is highly calorific nourishment for pride. That's what D.A. Carson said a long time ago. It's always stuck in my mind. When you stay constantly on the critical attack, it warps your mind. Continually sustaining negativity and not building constructive things, which is very difficult. Building things is hard. When you stay in this negative mindset, it will warp and ultimately deform you, period. That's just how it works, anonymous account or not. If you're acting that way, it's going to deform you in a negative way. But the point here is, what I'm trying to say is, there's a clear distinction between what the author of Hebrews is doing and what most of these anonymous accounts on the internet are doing. So the reason I'm saying you should delete your anonymous account is not because you're writing something like the letter to the Hebrews, encouraging them to hold fast to the faith once for all delivered to the saints, encouraging them to enter the eschatological rest and all these sort of things. No, anonymous accounts on Twitter for the most part are saying ridiculous things. Like this guy here, you should delete your account. Like, okay, I don't even understand what that means. Cool, I'll like it. There's another guy in here, I think. Yeah, or he's using particular language that shouldn't be used in a context like this. So we've got other people, I agree, especially on the cowardly, but the permanence and searchability of everything you say online has a chilling effect. Imagine getting stopped at an international border over something posted 10 years earlier about an international political issues. Seems likely now. And so this seems like a common thread of like why you'd have an anonymous account, because of what could happen. Just like this next one. A few of my followers know me and my pastor personally, and I'm not about to get my career destroyed pointlessly for expressing wrong thing, nor will I censor myself. So these are two sides of the same coin. I'm afraid of what my employer would do. I'm afraid of what might happen if they follow these things. Okay, number one, if there's a political government that's actually tracking down your tweets on these things, they probably have more than just your tweets. They have your IP address. They have all these different things in addition. So if they're tracking these things down, they probably have your IP addresses. So whether you're anonymous or not, doesn't really matter. They're going to find you and they're going to do what they want to you in those scenarios. So, but a lot of this is just like, what if scenarios? What if this happened in 10 years? What if this happened in 20 years? Okay, then just get off the internet, get off the grid. If you're that concerned, don't have a Twitter account, don't have an X account, don't have a Facebook, don't have a cell phone, don't have a credit card. Like, just, if you're that serious about it, just get off the grid. That's fine. Like, there's no shame in that. I get it. But if you're that afraid, just don't post on the internet. That solves the solution. Creating an anonymous account doesn't help you here. The other one is like, well, what about my job? I don't want to lose it. Well, then delete your account again. Either be courageous enough to show your face and put your name on it. Be prudent and wise in what you share on the internet, or delete your account. It's very simple to be able to manage yourself appropriately without getting fired from your job. If you can't do that, there are more significant problems in your life and in how you handle yourself and conduct yourself. This should be a very simple thing. You should be able to bridle your tongue and to be able to help manage yourself appropriately to where you can understand how to connect with people in a way that doesn't get you fired. And if you get fired, so what? Then you were actually being honest about what you believed. If most of these people are saying, well, I'd get fired from my job if I said these things on the internet. Are you afraid to say them in real life at your job? Because these people are the same ones who are constantly criticizing others for these political issues or for these other religious issues for whatever it is. Maybe it's gender, sexuality, or whatever else. And why aren't you saying that at your workplace? Why are you not courageous enough to say that face to face to somebody? You want to say that on the internet behind an anonymous name instead of saying it behind your actual name. So what I would say is that that's cowardly. It's cowardice, and you should grow up and you should delete that anonymous account and create a real one. It should be very simple. At least that's the way I think of it. If you disagree, drop a comment below. I'm sure there'll be plenty of anonymous people who would like to do that. So let's go ahead and keep going. Good advice. Okay. Yep. Okay. Where are we else? Maybe you should just talk to people who do and find out why instead of judging them. So look here again, make an argument for why anonymous accounts are virtuous and why they're good. Don't just simply play this cowardly game of thinking that you can hide behind a keyboard and say whatever you want, because ultimately it leads to vice in most scenarios and in most cases. There are some people who are virtuous enough to handle it appropriately, but why? There's no real benefit to doing it. Just put your name on it. Or you can just prove how, okay, whatever, I don't know what that means. It doesn't warp my mind, evade moral responsibility, or change my in real life persona. It stops me from being arrested by communists and keeps my ego in check. I have no idea how it keeps your ego in check, and I have no idea why you're going to be arrested by communists. That makes no sense. I have no idea what's going on here. So we'll keep going on. Weird take. Yeah, sure. Reminder, if you have a secret Christian group hiding from the Romans, you should stop. It warps the mind. I have no idea what that means. Half these anonymous accounts are bots. I know they just say crazy stuff. It's this kind of ministry leader foolery that Anon accounts must exist. Why? Why can't you just stand behind your actual name and say it? It shouldn't be that difficult. You should have the courage and the fortitude to say it with your name. That's point blank, in my opinion, what you should be doing here. And also, there is scripture here to back up what I'm thinking about here. So let me share one other page. Screen. Sorry, guys, I'm just not very good at this, apparently. Here we go. Deuteronomy 19. So if you go to Deuteronomy 19, where it talks about laws concerning witnesses, a single witness shall not suffice against a person for any crime. Okay. Only on the evidence of two witnesses. Great. If a malicious witness arises to accuse a person of wrongdoing, then both parties to the dispute shall appear before the Lord. The judges shall inquire diligently, and if the witness is a false witness and has accused his brother falsely, then you shall do to him as he had meant to do to his brother. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. An anonymous account is afraid to actually follow Deuteronomy 19 right here. If you're a malicious witness constantly criticizing and attacking others, other Christians or supposed Christians, whatever it is, and you're afraid to come before the Lord in person where people can see you and actually judge the accusation that you've made, you are failing to follow the basic principle of Deuteronomy 19. And we should purge the evil from among us. You are the evil person if you're afraid to come stand before and actually put your name on it. That's at least that's the way I'm reading this right here. Anonymous accounts who are afraid to do this and afraid to follow the basic principle here and put their name on it and say, yep, that's me. I'm going to put my charge forward, are cowards and are evil. Now, that's very strong, but there's plenty of anonymous accounts who aren't doing that. I get it. But on the whole, I would say when I look on the internet, most anonymous accounts are bad. They're vicious. They create all sorts of evil among themselves. They slander their accusers of the brethren. They do all sorts of evil actions that should be blocked and removed. So at least that's my opinion right here on anonymous accounts on the internet. I'm not talking about every anonymous account on the internet. I'm not talking about every anonymous approach or activity or whatever it is. There is a place for things. There's a value for things that are anonymous in certain formats and certain contexts. but you actually have to make a constructive case for why that's the case. And I think, there's a nice volume by Christian Miller. He's done a lot of work on honesty that would be useful to sort of buttress this discussion, to advance it, where you're thinking about, like, in what sense is anonymity in a social media? Is that deceptive, or is that lying? Is that creating a vicious context, or malforming your ability to grow in virtue or something? Fundamentally, though, I think that the problem with the most anonymous accounts is that they are extremely critical, and they are afraid and unwilling to show their face and their name to stand up behind the charge that they're making. And to me, that's a violation pretty clearly of what Deuteronomy 19 expects of us. And so if you're an anonymous account, I'd love to hear why you think that it is a legitimate avenue. I think most of the legitimacy claims that I've seen are, I'm afraid I'm going to get fired, or I'm afraid of this, or I'm afraid of that, or I'm afraid of this. To me, most of those cases are simply just cowardice, and you should either just not say stupid things on the internet, or you should be more wise and prudent in how you interact with yourself and others on the internet, or you should just not have an account. Like, it's okay to not have a social media account. It's not hard. Or you can just watch stuff. Like, I mean, I don't think it's that difficult. I think it's pretty clear approach here. So that's my take anyway. So maybe some of you are going to disagree. I'm sure you will. I posted this on the internet, and there was plenty of people who disagreed. So tell me why I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it. I don't think I am, but I'd appreciate hearing it. Maybe you can put your name on it if you have an anonymous YouTube account, which I totally get. I think most people probably have anonymous YouTube things or whatever, but I don't think most people are viciously attacking people on YouTube. Maybe they are. The YouTube comments I've heard are pretty nasty places. Anyway, appreciate you guys thinking with me. Hopefully this was a useful sort of introduction to a topic. I think there's probably lots more to be said about this. Probably people should be writing essays, journal articles, or different things on these sort of things. I think it'll be relevant and interesting and thought-provoking in a lot of ways, because I don't know if there's been a lot of serious academic attention on these things. I think there's been some stuff on deepfakes and other things, but I would love to see more on the moral character of moral status of anonymous social media accounts. I think that'd be really, really interesting. So anyway, until next time, I look forward to thinking with you all soon, and we'll talk soon.